Well, you know it had to happen. It's December and it's cold. These actually are not earrings, these are icicles, by the way. But let's leave all that outside for now because tonight we are going to keep you warm with some really great writing. Welcome to FBOMB Global Flash Reading, the closing out of 2025 edition. I'm Francine Witte, zooming in from New York City. And we have had a wonderful year of readings, and tonight is the star on the top of the tree, or the shamus on the menorah, okay, if you prefer. To me, the beauty of Zoom is manyfold. Not only can we have readers from all over, but our listeners, both here in the Zoom room and those of you watching the recording, already have the best seat in the house. The drinks are free, and you didn't have to fight traffic. Win, win, win. So please settle in, get cozy, and we hope to delight you and weave all kinds of word spells with the stories you are about to hear. I always like to take a minute to read something just to warm up the airwaves. Um, so I'm going to read, and then we will hear from our features. This is called Driving in the CVS. I'm in an Alfa Romeo, not the fancy kind, not the Fellini kind, but the kind you might see in a dream. Not a fancy dream, not a sleeping beauty dream, more of a too much tequila and what was I thinking dream. Anyway, I drive into the shampoo aisle and boom, there's my sister, and she's alive again. Not in the stealing all my boyfriends kind of way, but more of a we did share DNA kind of way. And I'm driving in the way she would like, fast and careless, but not in this careless way I stitch together, like the way I stitch together things in a dream kind of a way, but more, it's just easier to go along with kind of way. And while I need shampoo, my Alpha needs gas. Not the cheap no lead kind, but more of the kind with the delicious, awful smell that shakes your nostrils open and you find yourself sniffing again and again. And then my sister hands me a bottle of shampoo, not the kind I want, but the kind she wants. And she hands it to me in a rough kind of a way, not in the soft, icky way she would use to tell me, oh, yes, I stole your boyfriend. And before I know it, she is driving my Alfa Romeo. Doesn't even need a key. And she's washing my hair with gasoline, but not in the cheap, not in the soap commercial, look at all that lather kind of way, but in a you should have kept an eye on your boyfriend kind of way. And then she drives out of the CVS. My hair dries and it's still dirty and stinking now of gasoline. And I check my feet to see if they're still there because I still need them to walk home. That is, if my sister hasn't taken them too. Okay. Um, So we're going to get started. Oh, you guys are just as crazy as I am. It's nice to see. Um, okay, first we're going to hear from Cindy Rosmus. Cindy Rosmus is a pull no punches Jersey girl who talks like anybody's from West Side Story and everybody from Saturday Night Fever. She's published 7 collections of short stories and is the editor slash art director of the crime fiction webzine Yellow Mama. She's a Gemini, a Christian, and an animal rights advocate. Cindy Rasmus.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to read one story. It's called Groupie. It's 1,000 words, which is about 5 minutes. So just the one. It's currently on in the Halloween issue of Yellow Mama, and tomorrow our Christmas issue kicks in. Ken Chris, the publisher, is here. Bernice Holtzman, the assistant art director, is here. Other friends are here, and Sophia Wiseman Rose, who illustrated Groupie, is here also. Groupie. 1987. Always hated that word. like I was this deluded dope with big wild hair, high on dreams, like it could be more than it was. Never mind who I knew or how it was set up, who Jimmy really was. Just that he was a huge star from a huge rock band. The whole world wanted a piece of him. That night I got mine. Forget how great the concert was. I didn't hear most of it, or see the mob of screeching chicks around me. Every sense was zoomed in on the post-show date. How his voice would whisper my name, Julie. How he'd look up close with sweat-drenched long hair, tar-black eyes. How good he'd smell despite the sweat. How he would taste. How he'd feel inside me. A big secret, but it had to be. The wrong person could ruin it. Are you crazy? Anybody sane would say. My friends. You don't even know these people. Or him. You could be killed. Or my favorite. Have you no pride? Mom's special word. Everybody knew where pride went before. A piece of ass was all I'd be. For one night. But I couldn't help thinking. Maybe not. Female fans I was blinded to. But the guy fans stuck out. Blonde, balding guy dancing awkwardly to the band's most killer song. In these outrageous pants. Zebra spandex. Asshole, I thought. Nobody could wear pants like that but Jimmy. Tearing up the stage right now in his own skin-tight zebras. Shirt tossed long ago to the manic crowd. Something made me look back at the balding guy, who'd been watching me watch Jimmy. When he smiled, I looked away. I forgot all about him. It was the best hotel, but in a sleazy area. They'd blindfolded me on the way over, but I knew by the sounds I've lived near railroads, heard police sirens all my life. God knows who'd booked this place. Even if I knew, I've said too much already. Some guy, one of their crew, took me inside and removed my blindfold. It looked nice. Mirrored hallways with tiger-striped carpet. Should be zebra, I thought, like his pants. In one mirror, I looked scared. I was trembling. But why? This was my dream come true. Any minute, we'd be face to face in his room alone. Or at least I hoped. My God, that was the plan, wasn't it? The closer we got to the room, the louder it got from others. His band's music. Chicks laughing. I smelled food, but who could eat? Above the party music, I heard my heart pounding. Hey, on this big bed, Jimmy was chillin' with a beer. By himself, no music blasting. When Jimmy waved me in, the crew guy practically shoved me through the door. See you later, Bert, Jimmy said, and then Bert was gone. I still didn't move. What was I waiting for? And why was I cold? Sure, the AC was on, but all he had on were those zebra pants, and he seemed okay. His nipples didn't look stiff, at least from where I stood. But it was hard to tell in that hairy chest. He had a gorgeous body with sculpted muscles. Smiling, he handed me a beer. Julie, he said. I didn't answer. Up close, my brain worked hard to process this. It was really him, looking like you'd see on MTV. A little messy from the show, black eyeliner still intact. Maybe it was tattooed on. Hair curlier than in pics, maybe from sweating. I got closer. I wanted to taste that sweat, lick it all off. When he grabbed and kissed me, it was the hottest kiss I ever had with anybody. One kiss led to the next stop. I had his pants down and was on him, and so fast he gasped. He almost lost it right then. I was that good. For hours we did everything you'd expect. He was as into me as I was into him. I made him scream. But nobody came running. Not in this rock god's paradise. When we really got into it, we were both screaming. There were condoms, but not enough. Didn't stop us. What was bound to happen, and I wasn't sorry. He got us 2 more beers. Thanks, he said. That was really nice. He pulled me close, nuzzled my face like I was his girlfriend. I wanted to say something, but what? Ask a dumb question like, did you always want to be a rock star? Nah, he said. Actually, when I was a kid. He set the beer on the nightstand. I thought about becoming a priest. I just looked at him. Eyes heavy with near sleep. He wanted a reaction. You still could. Smiling, he rolled over, snuggled in the blanket, and went right to sleep. Why I snuck out soon after, I'll never know. Did it prove I was cool? Not fazed by this night with a hot rock giant, letting the sweet guy feel like I was dumping him. I'd reached over to touch him once more. Maybe wrap one of his curls around my finger. But I stopped myself. Outside, I realized I had no way to get home. And where was I anyway? It was really dark. Not enough lighting for such a fancy hotel. No security guards either. Just that balding creep. And no longer in zebra pants. What do you think? He said. That rich guy's gonna marry you? Get away! I started backing up. How far to the back exit? Was it locked? When he grabbed me, I tried to scream, but he covered my mouth. I fought back, but not hard enough. He had a blade. Still, I kept fighting, even after he cut me. I smelled my own blood, but wouldn't give up. He dragged me into an alley and raped me, and left me there. But I managed to get up and find help. A stranger took me to the hospital. From that night on, I hated myself. I couldn't stop crying. I've been so deluded. That night, and what happened after, was all my fault. I wanted to die. I deserved to die. But 2 months later, the rock god's or rapist baby died instead. Thank you.
Oh, what a way to start, huh? Cindy never disappoints, never disappoints. Cindy Rosmus, thank you for being here with us and sharing that wonderful story.
Wonderful to be here with you guys. Thank you.
So I don't see Patricia, do I? Well, we'll jump ahead. I wanted to also say we don't have a lot of people here, but I do see some flash writers. So I don't usually do this, but I thought in the spirit of the holidays, we could have like a tiny little open mic at the end. So if anybody wants to read like one, kind of short piece at the end, send me a message in the chat and you can read something at the end. And if nobody wants to, that's fine too. Okay. So yeah, just send me something in the chat and just like one piece would be great. Okay. Next, we're going to hear from Claudia Monpere. Claudia Monpere received the 2024 New Flash Fiction Prize from New Flash Fiction Review and the Genre Flash Fiction Prize from Uncharted Magazine. She has stories in Best Small Fictions 2024 and 2025 and Best Microfictions 2025. Her Flash collection, The Periodic Family, wonderful book, is forthcoming from Cowboy Jamboree in 2026. Claudia Monpere.
It's great to be here. Thank you. I'm going to read 4 micros, starting with the first one, which is a CNF. Potato Boy. My first boyfriend poured huge piles of dirt on his living room floor. The house was a tiny rental, flaked, chipped paint. When I was sad, I peeled it like a banana. The dirt was for growing potatoes. There was no yard. The potatoes flourished. When my first boyfriend and I were high, we'd plunge our hands into the soil, feeling for each other's fingers underground. Harvest time, those golden brown ovals, their feathery roots. We brought them to his mother, who made mashed potatoes, buttery, creamy, nothing like the potato buds I was raised on. I was 16. I met my first boyfriend in a summer school political science course, the last requirement that allowed me to graduate a year early from high school. He was the cutest in the class, all boys who'd flunked it earlier. He had trouble holding down a job, so I brought food from home, raided the garage and kitchen and closets for old lamps, rugs. Where did those blue towels go? My mother kept asking. My first boyfriend was kind, his voice soothing, quiet, no rocket blasts shoving molecules out of their way like at home. Even when he pointed a shotgun at me, his voice was calm. I stood in his bedroom doorway at 3 a.m., fleeing something bad at home. "Who is it?" he called from his bed. I was only a dark, creaking shape, trying not to wake him. "My finger's on the trigger," he said. The moment stretched, and I reached for it. Morning stroll. In the morning, we always walk the neighborhood, greeting the ginkgos and red maples, the dogs, smelling the smoke from our neighbors' wood stoves. We always throw a small red ball and watch the golden tug at his leash. Watch Penelope release it as Chalky chases the ball. In the morning, we never hold hands. We never walk by that house. We never speak of what happened at that neighborhood barbecue when someone left the gate to the pool open and we were busy with beer and laughter. The rest of the day, we collect the minutes and hours, and some days they become raw fibers, cotton, wool, and some days we're even able to spin them into yarn. But what we're waiting for is a day when we weave them into cloth, one that is durable, one that breathes under the harshest conditions. Player. A piano tilts on the dirt beside a freeway entrance like an unbalanced stilt walker. Chipped keys, case body cracked, chunks of wood missing, and still the boy plays, his fingers knitting a melody not heard above the traffic, the notes steeped in ache. The swollen traffic comes and goes. The heart roosts where it can. Soon the tune demands, launching notes with such heft that a block away a woman pauses from sorting clothes beside her makeshift tent. Blue tarps fluttering in the wind, and something loosens inside her, something bright, defined, like the shiny penny her father gave her as they stood before the fountain long ago. "Toss it," he told her. "Make a wish." And this is my last micro. Silver is silent, and the number 8. Loops of nothing. My father's voice is silent, but not his lungs, which crackle, bubble, wheeze when he breathes. My brother is not silent, slinging funny insults that scurry to our faces, begging smiles. The books are not silent. Rumi, Hopkins, and Frost gathering constellations for my father as my sisters and I read to him. But the hospital bed is silent. Whirs and creaks abandoned in another landscape where the bed could be adjusted for comfort. My mother is silent, and my younger brother. Curious ghosts, waiting. My brother wants to ping pong my father's soul between him and mom because it's been so long since my father's body has had fun. Mom says yes. Thank you.
Excellent, Claudia. Really excellent, as always. Claudia Monpere, thank you for being here with us tonight. And I just heard from Patricia. She's not feeling well, so she will not be joining us. And Niles Reddick also is not joining us as he was on the banner there as reading tonight. But his daughter is graduating from college as an architect. So I mean, you know, you can't beat that, right? So um, so we're going to have like a little bit of an open mic. So our, you know, our loss is also our gain. So far I have three people that want to read: Phil, Elan, and Kathryn. Is there anyone else that I missed? Feel free to let me know. You're more than welcome. Alyssa, sure. Okay. You could let me know, but you know, um, as you go on, as we go on, because you know, maybe like you go, hey, you know, I could do that. It's kind of how it always is. So, all right. So let's move this thing along. Next, we're going to hear from Andrea Marcusa. Andrea Marcusa's writings have appeared in Milk Candy Review, Citron Review, Moon City Review, Cut Bank, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smoke Long, Best Microfiction and Cleaver, Prime Number, and is the author of the chapbook, What We Live With Now, from Bottle Cap Press. She's a member of the faculty at the Writers Studio here in New York City and a flash fiction editor at Cleaver Magazine. Andrea Marcusa.
Hi, Francine. It's great to see everybody here tonight, especially because everyone's really busy, but you found time to come. Plus, you could avoid some of those holiday parties you don't want to go to anyway, because we're all, you know, introverts. So anyway, I'm going to read a very short, just a 500-word piece called Not Yet. You haven't visited your daughter in months. You see the exit ahead and try to ignore it. But the cerulean sky and trees turning saffron and crimson pull you towards it. Down a silent back road past broken fences, collapsed stone walls, and derelict fields you drive before turning at the giant chestnut onto a sweeping drive. The car winds up the hill, each curve carved in your nerves, to a massive brick mansion. Inside, the smell of ancient dust and freshly waxed floors carries you back to that bewildering day you first wandered the yawning hallways and understood your daughter may never leave. You choose the empty stairs over the slow, reluctant elevator and its foreign faces. At 4, you enter a different hallway and notice an aide. She looks your age, someone you might have known when you were both young mothers chasing toddlers. She's heavier now, with hair dyed dull drugstore brown. You send each other half smiles, and even this small gesture feels hard. At your daughter's doorway, you see her curled in a sea, and you hesitate, resisting the impulse to bolt. Finally, you stride in and rest your hands on the bed rail. Sweetheart, it's Mom. You don't expect an answer, but you had to try. You reach across the mattress, ease her bony body open, and raise the bed so she's half sitting. You study the stillness of her blue-gray eyes, as empty as slate. Lowering the rail, you slide in and press your cheek against the bony wing of her back, absorbing the familiar warmth, as you did when she was young and later a decade ago in the hospital, when hope still hovered, when she smelled fresh and sweet like her sister, who would soon learn to carry her 2-year-old son with a prosthetic arm. With a feeding tube at her chest, gray hair sprouting at her temples, and fine lines feathering her eyes, you ask, "Is today the day I decide to let you go?" Outside the window, a swallow swoops down and settles on the ledge. It tilts its head, staring with a look startlingly wise, almost otherworldly. You think back to the flock that sailed through the blue sky a decade ago at your son-in-law's funeral. By some ingrained reflex, amid falling saffron and crimson leaves, you reach for the hands of your 2 daughters, but they were in the hospital, broken and mending. The officiant said to the gathering that swallows signify hope, the easing of sorrow, the promise that suffering will lift. You tighten your hold on your daughter and close your eyes. When you finally let go, you whisper, "Not today." Place a kiss on her bony cheek, then make your way back to your car. Your granddaughter, delivered 2 months early, the day after the accident, and raised by you for a decade, will soon be skipping up your driveway from the bus stop, hungry for a sweet and a glass of milk. That's it.
Thank you, Andrea. Andrea Marcusa, always wonderful to have you here. And as always, thank you for helping out with managing the interlopers or the possible interlopers. I very much appreciate that. I want to just kind of acknowledge some of the people here in the Zoom room not reading. Well, they will be reading actually a little bit later, some of them. And there's still time for you to volunteer to read in the chat. So we have just in the Zoom room, Bill Merklee, Penny Christ, Alyssa Field, Bernice Holzman, Marianne Hoover, Calliope Pelios, Sandy Brain, Lauren Kardos, Maria Scarville, Barut Rains, that's why I said Brad Rose, and Louise M. Yacht. Okay, welcome. And my beautiful, beautiful Aunt Miriam is here too. So
can I interrupt for a sec?
of course.
Barute and Sandy Brain are two of my students, so thank you for coming.
Oh, wonderful. And if they'd like, they can read something in the open mic.
I would love them to.
Sure. Endowment. We have actually a few people on the open mic now, so it should be kind of lively, and we have a party actually. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you for being here on this Friday night, Saturday afternoon for Sandra. Okay, next we're going to hear from Zvi Sesling. Zvi Sesling, Brookline, Massachusetts Poet Laureate 2017 to 2020, has published numerous poems and flash fictions. He edits 10 by 10 flash fiction stories. His flash fiction books are 40 stories that's written with Paul Beckman, the originator of the FBOMB, Secret Behind the Gate and Wheel. Sesling lives in Brookline, Massachusetts with his wife, Susan J. Decter. Zvi Sesling.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The first story I'm going to read will be in Francine's Flash Boulevard on December 27th. And it's actually based on St. Louis has a floodgate that is 53 feet high, and it closes when there's a flood that could flood the city. And in 1992, the water actually reached 52 feet of that 53 feet and caused a lot of damage, and a lot of caskets were taken out from underground and floated down the river as far as New Orleans. And that resulted in this story 30 years later as I was thinking about that. It's called Casket to Go. Just prior to dying in his hometown in Festus, Missouri, Jack Belfield, the former mayor, announced in the Festus Final, the evening paper that reached every home in the city and town on the Mississippi River, that his wish was to be buried in his hometown of Helena, Mississippi. Jack had been born there 77 years ago, and although he never visited his parents, after his parents died and his brother moved to California and his sister to Florida, he still felt connected to his birthplace, also situated on the banks of the Mississippi River. Jack was single when he succumbed to a rare form of cancer, and his distant relatives in Helena were too poor to have the body transported 635 miles so he could be buried in the only cemetery in Helena, Peaceful View Memorial Park, where he hoped it would be his final resting place. During his term as mayor of Festus, he had made political enemies, among whom was Elwood Eldridge, the owner of the Eternal Peace Cemetery in Festus. So despite his wishes and the fact that Elwood Eldridge's son was now not only the mayor of Festus, but only funeral home in town, as well as the only cemetery, Jack was interred there. The animosity between the two dated back some 60 years, give or take, according to those still alive who recalled those though the stories varied. According to Nathan Bilodeau, Jake and Elwood had courted the same girl, Dolly Wildhoist. It had been a courtship of attrition, with Jack first gifting Dolly a working mule and Elwood providing her with a prized riding horse. Jack then gave Dolly 4 sheep and a goat, but Elwood outdid him by digging a well and giving her a pump so water would be accessible near her house instead of necessitating Dolly to walk to the river with buckets to carry the water home. The town folks had also followed the escalating courtship with interest, and when Dolly announced that she would reveal her choice on Easter Sunday in the Praised-to-Be Church, the only church in town, the town's excitement reached fever pitch. Sam Gurney, who owned the provision store, became the depository for the bets being placed on Jack and Elwood. Even children were allowed to place whatever they had on one man or the other. As a result of the 200 people who lived in Festus, minus 2 babies, 194 laid their hard-earned wages on the top of the counter at Gurney's Provisions. Surprisingly, 97 people wagered on Jack to win, while the exact number of Festus citizens placed their hopes on Elwood. The 2 eligible bachelors did not enter into the gambling. Neither Dolly nor her mother did but partake in the betting. Some of the men would get into fistfights at Beatty's bar when arguing that they knew better than the other man, but in the end they would shake hands and each would go home to his wife. It was early March when Dolly's decision was still a ways off, so there were a few angry verbal encounters as well as fistfights in Beatty's bar. Each argument or fight always ended with a shaking of hands and the words, "We'll see." No one was ever seriously injured beyond a black eye, swollen jaw, or cheekbone, or one lost tooth. Even the women in town would argue, upping their wagers by betting the loser would do the winner's laundry the Sunday after Easter. For the week before Easter, none of the women did laundry, nor did they do it after Easter, so the loser would have to do 2 weeks of laundry plus their own. The good citizens of Festus carried on with their daily existence until it was finally Easter Sunday. Every Festus resident brought it into the Praised-to-Be Church, and Pastor Dermot Woodruff conducted the services to a full house for the first time in his 10 years as the church's pastor. When the service was over at noon, Pastor Woodruff called Dolly to the podium. She told the gathered people that she had spent much time deciding which of the 2 honorable men she would make her life with. She explained that Jack was a strong, handsome man whom she admired for his hard work and gentle manner. She then said that Elwood was a savvy businessman who could provide her with comfort in the things that she could only dream of, and therefore Elwood was her choice. Half the church roared happily, the other half shook their heads and walked out. Dolly and Elwood lived in a new house he built for her, and they had 3 children, one of whom townspeople swore looked like Jack. It was many years later, after Dolly and Elwood had peacefully passed on, that Jack, who had remained a bachelor, finally joined the town's departed. But since no one wanted to assume the hefty cost of having the body transported to Elena, he was buried in the Eternal Peace Cemetery. Exactly 1 year later, the Mississippi had its greatest flood of the 20th century, so great that the rushing water opened the graves, including Jack Belville's, at the Eternal Peace Cemetery. The water caused the coffin to rise and be caught in the southbound current and sent 635 miles downstream and deposited in Helena, where town officials determined it was less expensive to rebury him in Peaceful View Memorial Park than to send the casket back to Festus. Thank you. And then
Love that story.
Then I have one short one. It was actually written about 8 years ago or 9 years ago and was in Oddball magazine that Chad Parenteau puts out. And it's called Belly Laugh. And the reason I'm reading it tonight is tomorrow is the annual Army-Navy game, Go Navy. And this was written about the Army-Navy game 8 or 9 years ago. The creature descends in the middle of the Army-Navy football game on a 50-yard line at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, coming down in what appears to be a metal object about 30 feet high and 15 feet wide. He steps out of the spaceship, yet does not seem to frighten anyone. He, or maybe it, is roughly 7 feet high and 3 or 4 feet wide. The creature holds up a hand, or what resembles a hand, perhaps a sign of peace. The President of the United States is sitting in the stands, jumps up, imitates the motion. The creature signals the President to come forward. Having a big ego and being brash, the President walks out to midfield. He is followed by 3 Secret Service and 2 Philadelphia policemen. The President's bleach blonde hair flaps in the wind. His nose is a bit red in the cold. His overcoat is unbuttoned to reveal a white shirt and a red tie. His belly protrudes as he walks up to the creature that towers above him. The President signals his bodyguards to hang back. They gladly obey his command. The President opens his mouth to speak, and as he does, the creature opens his mouth, and like a chameleon, a tongue flashes out, grabs the President, pulls him into the creature's mouth, and swallows the man who claims to be the smartest and most powerful man on earth. The bodyguards scatter, and everyone, fans, sportscasters, coaches, players, scream and run for the exits. The creature stands at midfield with what appears to be a shaking belly laugh, climbs back into his spaceship, and takes off. Later at the White House, the Vice President is sworn in as president and asks, "Who will be dessert?" Thank you.
Thank you, Zvi A.
And that,
Sesling.
in case you didn't recognize it, that's our favorite president.
Yes. Thank you for being here with us tonight, Zvi.
It should only happen.
All right, next we're going to hear from Lucinda Kempe. Lucinda Kempe's work is forthcoming in Salvage, China Meville editor, the McNeese Review, Soflo Pojo, Unbroken Journal, Bo, Gooseberry Pie, New Flash Fiction Review, and Centaur among other places. An excerpt of her memoir was shortlisted for the Fish Memoir Prize in April 2021. She lives on Long Island, where she exercises, that's with an O, with words. You can find her at lucindakemp.substack.com. Lucinda Kemp.
Oh, hey everybody. Thank you, Zvi, for the the lead in. I'm gonna read two pieces. One is a fat micro and one is a flash. This was just the first one I'm gonna read was just published yesterday in Gooseberry Pie. Everything was all right. The federal courts issued rebukes while the Supreme Court applauded the presidential hijinks. The doctors submitted Medicare claims despite Medicare being a ghost. The daily memorandums from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue burst with bizarre edicts that no one could keep up with, not even Paul Krugman. The diamond merchants polished their African diamonds faster than the newly minted kleptocrat American oligarchs could buy, while the anxious popped Valium, Remeron, ketamine that hadn't yet been banned. Colleges redefined woke to work to avoid the anti-DEI declarations as ICE agents donned hoods and arrested anyone brown or black or remotely LGBTQ. The Orange House declared Antifa a leftist terrorist group, and the Proud Boys tried avoiding arrest while one prominent January 6er demanded reparations. Elan taught his son to mime the words, "Fuck you, Mr. President, my dad is the emperor." The president gorged on McDonald's shakes until his bowels loosened all over the freshly cemented rose garden as Zelensky convulsed with hilarity when the news reached him. It all seemed almost normal until the bird flu-ridden cows had to be butchered in the stalls where they were milked, on the fields where they ate grass, and anywhere else a cow might be found, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. canceled medical research, neglecting the contagion that infected the birds, who transmitted it to the geese, who passed it to the chickens, who transferred it to the cows, bird watchers, pate makers, and farmers, and folk, thusly wiping out half of the good old American population who couldn't vote anymore anyway because they'd taken their husband's last names. And the rest were stymied by the cataclysmic business as usual, all except George Conway, who was happy about his divorce.
Nice.
This is called, I'm in a very serious role here, Suicidal Virgin. Suicidal Virgin listed to the right as the crowd went wild in the rain. Joseph had retired and he was driving her to death. She listed to the left and joined the crowd congaing in the village square. Just as she felt a tiny bolt of relief, thunder boomed overhead, followed by an aggravated contralto. Suicidal Virgin didn't bother to look up. She knew who it was. Father God materialized wearing a yellow raincoat and matching citrine galoshes. "You're neglecting your duty," he rumbled. Suicidal Virgin paused dancing. Now was the opportunity to tell her boss she was done with the Holy Mother of Christ business. Coupled with the bored husband trailing her every movement, being the Panagia was too freaking much. "Father God, I'm sick of my job." "All you have to do is deliver a message," he said. "What message would that be? Have a crazy-ass virgin birth, watch my child die, and be turned into an icon who must then deal with a retired carpenter bored out of his crock who decides in retirement that he'd like sex after all?" She pantomimed hanging herself. "There's no point in doing that," said Father God. "Well, what do you have to offer instead?" she asked. Father God scratched his long white beard. "I'm waiting. I'm thinking. This would change the entire trajectory of religion," he said. Robert Graves had a better idea. "Huh? Oh, go read The White Goddess." Suicidal Virgin found a stray chair and centered it near the Pietà in the middle of the square. She made a noose with her long white robes, affixing it around the statue's throat. In 5 minutes, her body went limp after she pushed the chair off. Father God covered her body with his raincoat. Then he turned to the crowd who had frozen in place. Joseph had appeared and lowered his head. "You should have been in church, worshiping, not pirouetting in the streets. And you should have stopped torturing your wife," said Father God. A young girl who'd been at the back of the crowd came forward. Why didn't you stop her? I'll never believe in you, she said. Joseph wept. Father God wept, as did the crowd. The suicidal virgin's torso turned into a flower with vermilion petals and a fuchsia stamen. The little girl tore the flower from its stem and took it home. Soon afterwards, she began speaking in tongues. Pilgrims came from all around the world to hear her. Many moons later, the girl, now woman, strolled into the kingdom of heaven. Father God welcomed her with his arms opened wide, and her white robe, stippled with fuchsia, disintegrated. But her tongue sprouted wings and flew back to the village, where the villagers recognized their lost, beatified girl, and they remembered her suicidal mother and how she'd suffered. In her honor, they refused to build her a shrine.
Oh, wow, that was great, Lucinda. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here tonight, Lucinda Kempe. Okay, we have two more featured readers, and then we'll have an open mic. And I'll put the list in as you know, like right before the order. And we're not going to be doing bios for that, but feel free so you can get ready. You can prepare. If you want to cut and paste your bio into the chat, that's perfectly fine. And like when you read, you can just say, "Hi, I'm so and so from wherever," and buy my book. You can do that. That's perfectly fine. Encouraged, as a matter of fact. Okay. So Sandra Arnold is next, and she's coming to us from the future. It's tomorrow there where she is. She's in New Zealand, I believe. Sandra Arnold is the author of 8 books, including fiction and nonfiction. Her work has been widely published and anthologized in New Zealand and internationally, placed and shortlisted in various competitions, and nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best Microfictions and the Best Small Fictions. She has a PhD in creative writing from Central Queensland University, Australia. The lovely Sandra Arnold. You're on mute. Sandra, you're on mute.
There, that's it.
There you
Done.
go.
Okay,
Yay.
thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. So, let's have a look. Yeah, so I'm going to read 2 stories, one a flash fiction and one a micro. And the flash fiction was published in this book, Below Ground, in the UK last year. It's called Things People Say. Things fathers say. Talk back to me again like that, and I'll take the side of your face off. Your sister is worth 2 of you. Say that again, and I'll knock the living daylights out of you. Your sister could buy you at one end and sell you at the other. Look at me like that, and I'll skin you alive. Look at me when I'm talking to you, or I'll make you wish you'd never been born. Things mothers say. Why don't you have any friends? I had lots of friends when I was your age. I was very popular at school. Look at all the friends your sister has. You spend too much time with your nose in books. What? You say your granddad put his hand up your dress? What a wicked thing to say about your sainted granddad. Well, if he did, which I don't believe, but if he did, it was only his idea of a joke. Things grandfathers say. I can't see the clock. Tell me what time it is. If you can't tell the time at your age, there must be something wrong with you. Come here. Things grandmothers say. All the good looks were taken by your sister. You're too tall. You'll have to marry a policeman. Things teachers say. I don't know how you got yourself into this class. This class is for clever children. You must have cheated your way in here. I'll have to have a word with the teacher who recommended you. Okay, just because you get all your spelling tests right, that does not mean you're clever. In any case, you couldn't have written this essay yourself, not at your age. You must have copied it from a book. Well, even if you did write that essay, you're still stupid at maths, so don't get above yourself. Things aunties say. Why on earth are you wasting your money sending her to a private school? The older girl, yes, but her? She'll just get ideas above her station. If she's lucky, and it's a big if, she'll just get married and have children. What good will an expensive education be then? We left school at 15 and earned a living. What's good enough for us is good enough for her. For both of your girls, if I'm being honest. Things private school principals say. So you want to go to teachers' college? Well, now, I would have said you were too timid to be a teacher, but if that's what you want, then I'll certainly write out a recommendation for you. Before I do you mind telling me exactly why you want to be a teacher? Things mothers-in-law say. Oh, I don't agree with you that lady teachers should be paid the same as men teachers. After all, ladies have to have a few days off every month. Oh, so now you've racked up a few degrees, I suppose you think you're someone? If you're ever planning on starting a family, you'd better hurry up. You're no spring chicken now, after wasting all that time chasing degrees. Things fathers-in-law say. Well, so now you're a lady authoress. Isn't it time you got yourself a proper job? I mean, who reads books these days? So you're writing another book. I suppose all those books are in lieu of babies, ha-ha. I thought that's what your dogs were for, ha-ha. I've noticed you've piled on a lot of weight. I've noticed that sister of yours is still as trim as ever. I've noticed you never wear makeup these days, and you've got some grey hairs. It's not good to let yourself go like that. You need to remember that men have roving eyes. Even your lovely sister's husband, well, the less said about that, the better, but at least she has a couple of kids to occupy her, not dogs. Things husbands say. I suppose the way we met wasn't the most romantic, taking that poor dog to the vet after we saw the hit and run and sitting in the clinic, both of us covered in blood, waiting for the vet to come out and tell us he'd have to be euthanized. Oh, and the look on your face as I held his paw, and the way you stroked him and talked to him as the needle went in, and the way we both bawled our eyes out in the cold night air. And I told you I'd always wanted a dog, and you said you'd always wanted one too. And as you started walking back to your car, I panicked that I might never see you again. And the words just came tumbling out of my usually buttoned-up mouth, that you had such a beautiful, kind face. And not only your face, but all of you. And I said I knew you would always be like this, even when we were old and grey. And you turned round and said, we? And you laughed, and I laughed. And all these years later, it's still true. That's that one. And this is a very short micro called Alive, and it's just been published in Gooseberry Pie. It wasn't her grey hair or the wrinkles. It wasn't her weight loss or the protruding bones. It wasn't the tooth decay and the lack of an affordable dentist. It wasn't the weed-filled garden, once her pride and joy, or the trees grown so huge it was like living in a forest. It wasn't her husband's dementia or the death of their dog. It was climbing into bed one freezing cold night and her husband turning towards her. wrapping his warm arms and legs around her frozen limbs, and the feeling that filled her heart. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Oh, you just got us. You know, that was heart-wrenching and beautiful as always.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra Arnold. Beautiful work as always. All right, our last feature for tonight, and then we'll have the open, is Brad Rose. He was born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Boston. He is the author of 8 collections of poetry and flash fiction, or words to that effect. I wouldn't say that exactly. Lucky Animals. No, wait, I can explain. I love these titles. Pink X-rays, detonations and momentary turbulence. Brad is also the author of 7 poetry chapbooks, among them Democracy of Secrets and Evil Twin is always in good company. And funny you should ask, his website is bradrosepoetry.com. Brad Rose.
Thanks very much, Francine. It's hard to bat cleanup after all these incredible hitters, but anyway, the first piece I'm going to read is called No Makeup. I like living in the moment, so I set fire to the furniture. Not the paisley chairs, of course. They match. What's the use of dining on meaty cannibals when they're mostly vegetarians anyway? Where's the nutrition in that? Obviously, the local tribe is perfectly within its rights to pursue legal action. It'll be our little secret, at least until after the furor over my public execution subsides. Coincidentally, last night, little BB asked me if I might be interested in running for office in our community association, Americans United for the Separation of Heads from Shoulders. BB is prettier than a 50-car train wreck and a sunny slope in the Great Plains. So I thanked her, but I told her I might soon be on temporary hiatus from the local chapter of the space-time continuum. After the apocalypse, I added, I might consider taking a stab at making a fiery stump speech, but that'll depend on the sorry state of government transparency. Although see-through, BB's not as personable as my domestic robot, Mr. Incognito. Nonetheless, with fangs as white and long as hers, I'd love to see her without her makeup on. Strange soup. I'm not keeping track, but how much do your socks weigh? I mean, since the accident. I'll bet that's been a big feather in your cap. Naturally, even outer space is a complete vacuum, but that's probably just me compared to myself. I wouldn't want to give any false impressions. I'm a chef, you know, not a cook, so my recipes are better than the real thing. The secret is various chemicals, but don't broadcast it. Then everything would likely go from bad to worse, like a nativity scene without any natives. Now that those 100-watt amphibians are loitering around, I don't feel as aloof and thick-skinned as I used to. It's almost heartwarming to think that they have Kit Kats on Mars. Of course, they say that's where all the best candy desserts come from. By the way, when properly plucked, the stegosauruses make a lovely reptilian soup, don't they? Fortunately, I'm ahead of the pack, so I've already got my lifetime warranty. I'm all set. Nostalgic. Could the super rich be cloning themselves? I'm sure I'd never do a thing like that. That's like inviting yourself to the prom. Sure, my brain is plus-sized and I've got all the neural coordinates, but my mind is not my own. It's like a unicycle with 2 front tires. But there's no use in overthinking it because things are never as bad as they seem. They're worse, which always leaves ample room for improvement. In fact, I like to keep things simple, laid back and straightforward. Maybe I'm just a bad apple, a snake in the grass. Heaven knows I'm not perfect, far from it. But just think, all that money and so much leverage, those jackals. It makes you nostalgic for iron knuckles and a crowbar. Sunny side up. This is 100 words. Returned from my fictional vacation, and now I'm nearly twice my age. It was all very convivial until the SpaghettiOs incident. I guess I should have been more sensitive. As I'm sure you'll understand, before Freud there were only ghosts and wispy hauntings. Yes, and the occasional beheading, but those are ancient history now. Most things don't leave a permanent scar. Besides, when you're dead, you're not asleep. You are sleep. Why does this have to be a secret? The sun doesn't really go down, at least not before it's all over. Please, don't forget to wake me up for breakfast. And the last piece is called Your First Rhino Rodeo. Sure, the horns. Of course the horns. But no one expects the deep baritone whispers, the thoughtful, oh-so-tender caresses, the gentle bath of dust. Not to mention the generous girth of those pudgy love handles. And what about those glorious eyes? My goodness, those lavish, loving eyes. There's nothing on earth quite like them. So do it now. Get off your high horse, sweetheart. Just this once. Live a little. Climb aboard. Giddy up. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Brad. Brad Rose is, perfecting a new genre, stand-up prose poetry. You're so funny. Thank you, Brad Rose. Wonderful as always. So let's thank our features, Cindy Rosmus, Claudia Monpere, Andrea Marcusa, Zvi Sesling, Lucinda Kempe, Sandra Arnold, and Brad Rose. You're all wonderful. Now we're going to have a nice open mic, which is kind of fun, really. Nice to hear from people who are nice enough to be here and just listen. So, so just say your name, where you are, and if you have a book or anything you want to promote, that's fine. You can put your bio in the chat. And anyway, first we're going to hear from Lauren Kardos.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the open mic opportunity, Francine. I'm from Washington, D.C., or I live there now, but I'm from Western Pennsylvania. So I write a lot about it. So I'm going to read a Western Pennsylvania micro, also set in December. So this is, in my dreams, man didn't hunt the Nittany lion extinct. Instead, he turned his fur translucent, his guts see-through, like those deep ocean's fish. And today he slinks quieter than a whisper through the Alleghenies. He sits with his pride in the mountaintops, laughing at my neighbor's Facebook sightings and the stuffed animal cute mascot at the State College campus bookstore, laughing at mine and Pap's asses freezing in the snow, our rifles aimed at nothing. Santa put ammo in my stocking again this year. So each dawn over winter break, Pap nudges me awake with his boot and drives us out to the woods. Don't know why we leave so early when all we do is crawl around and sit real still. Hours and hours waiting for the Nittany's certainly alive bobcat cousin, unlucky enough to inherit bright auburn fur and 1 permit per hunter status each open season. I snort the dribbles from my red cold nose and swallow the salty phlegm. Pap loves hollering that only sinners spit. I try not to think about Penny, our Maine Coon barn cat. Past few weeks, she's been scratching at the front door day and night. When the blizzard struck on Christmas Eve, Pap still refused, said indoor cats evolved from weak humans. What would I do but serve Penny such a disservice? Belly down in the snow, Pap pinches when I sniffle a little too loud. But his own stories to pass the time don't break the rules. How he bagged that 8-point whitetail that decorates our hearth on his last bullet, or he nabbed the wild turkey defrosting for New Year's Eve dinner out by Shellhammer's Creek. When the wild turkey on his breath stings my nostrils too much, I interrupt, brave questions that'll keep him distracted, mad, like, did the animals feel anything as breath left their bodies? I let my voice carry, let my arm tie-dye purple, yellow, black. Teachers won't see under my flannel next week, and what's a little bruising for me when the bobcats have their hide to worry about. Penny's food bowl was full this morning, each kibble exactly as I poured it the night before. Maybe she's still in cahoots with the Nittany, hiding in plain sight with a clan that offers her warmth. Pap yanks my ear, points out a wispy short tail and speckled black paws behind the hemlock. Release the safety, line the sights, he hisses, spittle melting the snow under his chin. Am I too weak, he asks, to take aim and shoot? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was lovely. Lauren Kardos. Okay, our next open micer is Phil Temples.
Right. Thank you, Francine, and good evening, everyone. I have two very short micros here. We'll call them nanos that I'd like to share. One is called Consumed. Herbert stumbles out from the bar into the dark alleyway next door and promptly passes out, whereupon a clouder of feral cats leaps upon him and sets about devouring his flesh in a nightmarish frenzy. His elderly Aunt Mildred warned Herbert he would eventually be consumed by drink and spirits. Next one, No Country for Old Men. Winston repeatedly changes the channel on the TV in his hospital room, looking for any program containing someone he can relate to. Yet every single actor portrays a Gen Y or Gen Z aged character. He angrily tosses the remote at the screen, causing the IV to pop out of his arm. Good, he thinks. I'm done for anyway. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Phil. Phil Temples. Next, we're going to hear from Elan Barnahama, and after Elan is Kathryn Silver-Hajo. Elan Barnahama.
Hi, reading to you from Newton, Mass. This is a 100-word story. I arrived in Greenwich Village in the summer of 1969 and rented a room on West 12th, close to where the bomb went off in that girl's house. Everyone I met there was broke, but we didn't know it. We were confused, misused, and refused. We were family. When we met, she was sitting barefoot on the rim of the fountain, hungry for everything. I didn't know then that we'd share our stories, that we'd be hungry together, that the fountain moment was a beginning. And how could I have known at 82 that I'd have to finish our story alone? Thank you.
Thank you, Elan. Elan Barnahama. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Kathryn Silver-Hajo, and after Kathryn, Bill Merklee. Kathryn Silver-Hajo.
Hi. Hello. So happy to be here. So sorry that Patricia is not here. Here's her wonderful book, which seems to be
Thank you for
backwards on
that.
my screen, and I highly recommend. It's a wonderful book. And if it's okay, I'll read two short micros,
Absolutely.
which recently featured in New Flash Fiction Review, and were both shortlisted for their 2025 Flash Fiction contest. I am just quickly going to put in the chat my my website where you can find my books and read my stories. And I have a new Flash collection coming out next fall from Cowboy Jamboree called Spinning, Love, Family, and Other Strange Entanglements. So I'm very excited about that. That's in the works. And okay. The first one is My Brother the Salmon. He's swimming upstream again, dogged and lean, ready to spawn his latest ideas. I wonder aloud if perhaps he doesn't need to have all the answers. If I don't want to be an egg factory or be beholden to the rules of the school, that should be my business. So I say, hey, let's meet up back in the wide open ocean. We could break with tradition, have a leisurely lull in the tide pools that smell of seaweed and sun-baked snails, gulls scolding overhead. We'd nab pink crabs and purple-shelled periwinkles, enjoy a happy-go-lucky day. He could pretend to be an actual brother. We'd do actual sibling things, like going to the Coral Reef ice cream shop to slurp squid ink sodas with krill ice cream through striped straws clutched between pouty lips. We could have a little back and forth about the hellish habits of humans dumping their junk in the sea. ruminate on the rumor we heard about slippery cousin trout. No doubt an old fishwife's tale, I'd say with a smirk. But his firm cheeks go wobbly and limp, like I've deflated him, like I don't get it, like why don't I welcome him blowing iridescent bubbles of brilliance my way, his salty kid sister always sticking it to him. Why won't I just open my gills, drink in his pearls? I clamp my mouth shut, fan out feathery fins, swim toward the light. Breaking the surface, I gasp for breath before realizing I have lungs. I test them out by screaming into the briny air. And this one is very short. Liberado. The old man strolls down Avenida Gaudi, shopping sack in hand, unburdened by clothing. He seems perfectly decent with his trim white beard and hairless torso, his body inked with yin-yang symbols, fork-tailed swallows darting about his chest and belly, a fiery sun ringing his navel. Just below the pièce de résistance, a fierce ruddy face tapers seamlessly into his neatly tucked package. His nonchalance and easy gait inspire a startled passerby to drop her own bulky bags and stare briefly before gazing up at the soaring spires of the Sagrada Familia she's accustomed to walking past without a glance. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful, Kathryn.
Thank
Kathryn
you.
Silver-Hajo. Thank you for reading for us tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Bill Merklee, and after Bill, Louise Amiot. Okay, so Bill Merklee.
Hi, I'm Bill, coming to you from northern New Jersey. I have stories in a bunch of places and was most recently longlisted for the Bath Novella and Flash Award, so fingers crossed. This is a work in progress, and the working title is Fascist Follies. 15 years after the war, Dad sends my mother's cousin packing back to Germany, where after he catches her trying to teach 3-year-old me to say Heil Hitler, because screw that noise, they surrendered and he came home alive. Then 9 years later, we visit Mom's family, and in a packed Bavarian beer garden, some drunk too young to have lived through it asks Dad who he thinks got to Berlin first, the Americans or the Russians, when a gnarled cane slams onto a wooden table, shaking dishes and silencing the room, and this bearded geezer who must have lived through both world wars glares at the younger man and declares, "There will be no talk of the war." And 9 years after that, my friends and I are driving through Englewood, New Jersey, when we spot some Aryan types in brown shirts, swastika armbands, and jackboots gathered in a park, and I go on automatic and lean halfway out the front passenger window screaming, "Fuck off! The paper-hanging son of a bitch only had one ball, and go find a bunker somewhere and follow his final example," when the car jerks to a halt and 2 cops pull me through the window and frisk me against the storefront, and a 3rd cop takes me aside and asks if I'm Jewish. So I say, "You have to be Jewish to hate Nazis?" And he says, "They're not real Nazis. It's a Woody Allen movie." And I say, "I love Woody Allen." And he says, "Shut up and get out of town." And 47 years later, take that goddamn mask off your face and take your goddamn hands off my neighbor. Thank you.
Very funny. That's great, Bill. Thank you, Bill Merklee. Thank you for being here and reading for us. Bill Merklee. Next, we're going to hear from Louise Amiot, if she's here. See, she's here, and after that, Beirut Rains. So, Louise, are you ready to read?
Actually, I'm reading a story for Louise because it's her birthday.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay if I do a micro?
Well, no, Cindy, I was going to ask you to read after, but
okay, no problem.
I don't know if Louise wants to read something herself, or
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to you, Louise. Beirut Rains is next. Is Beirut, are you ready?
I
You-
see something in the chat that says she's not reading.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I thought she was.
I had no intention of reading. I'm just
Oh,
listening.
I'm
But
sorry.
thank you for the offer.
Wonderful. No, that's wonderful. Okay, so Cindy, why don't you go ahead and read? Cindy's reading again because it's her friend's birthday here, and so she's reading this for her. So, Cindy Rosmus.
Here I am again, Louise. Happy birthday. I'm reading a micro story. It's not our usual type, but I had my bangs cut several months ago and they looked like shit, and now they're back. But that inspired me to write a story, and it's a micro story, The Bad Haircut Killer. And I'm reading it to you for your birthday because you're my friend and you missed me reading Groupie, but that's okay. You'll get it on the recording. But here's a special in-person reading. The Bad Haircut Killer. Thanks to her, I did it. Mommy, you bitch. All I ever wanted was long hair, banks in my eyes, like young Cher in the 1960s. Then you can't see, Mommy whined, scissors in hand. My eyes scrunched tight as the blade tips pierced my nose, eyelids. Snip, snip, getting closer, getting shorter. You look so cute, Mommy said. Like that kid in the 50s sitcom Father Knows Best. Shorter and shorter my bangs got, like fat Oliver Hardy's. Mommy, stop! Look, she said proudly. In the mirror, that little girl with tiny bangs was crying. Behind her, Mommy laughed. Never wanted me, so she made me ugly. Since then, my hair grew and grew, and when it needed cutting, who could I trust? Philomena, the funeral stylist who'd made me look corpse-like? Rachel, who learned haircutting in a concentration camp? Both times I ran out, because Mommy was watching. So I sprung for the salon where it happened. $100 I counted out next to those scissors. Then I saw her, face pierced and inked, her hair freeze pop blue, with ugly tiny bangs. Before she could cut me, I cut her. Thank you. Happy birthday, Louise! Thanks for coming.
Cindy, you are a trip. And yeah, bangs. I remember bangs from when I was a kid, and you know, if you have bangs and they're they're nice, like you're so lucky. You know, um, my mother was always take your hair off your face all the time. That's all I ever heard. Anyway, thank you for that, Cindy. Is there anybody else that I missed in the open? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Roy Dorman, you're on mute. Yeah, there you go.
I
Roy,
wasn't on the chat because I still haven't mastered that. So I'm Roy Dorman in Madison, Wisconsin. Cindy's one of my favorite editors, and apparently I'm one of her favorite writers.
Love you.
So this is a story that recently was it's a holiday story, and it was recently declined by a small group called Stone's Throw, but that's okay. Somebody will take it sometime. Maybe Cindy will take it next holiday. The agency that shall not be named. Well, well, mail guy. I didn't expect to see you here tonight. I can be mail guy at work, Jessica, but I do have a name, said Jerry Spencer. It's Jerry. Jessica Woodruff stared at Jerry like he was an interesting piece of lint on the sleeve of her Christmassy red dress. I think I'll stick with mail guy. It's easier to remember. Sure, fine. I know you folks in marketing have a lot of important names to remember, so the schmoozing and glad handing can, hey, mail guy, you hitting on Jessica? Might be biting off more than you can chew. Arthur Connors had come up behind Jerry as he was attempting to give Jessica a lesson in manners. Arthur was also in marketing and planned on a little mistletoe action with Jessica later on. Can it, Arthur, said Jessica. Jerry and I are trying to have a conversation here. Jessica didn't like Arthur at work and didn't like him any better at the office holiday party. She thought he was an idiot. My bad, said Arthur, smirking. I didn't know you two were an item. Oh, here you are, Jerry. Spending time with friends from work? A pretty young woman in a little black dress came up behind Jerry and put her arms around his waist. No, Andrea, these two are just co-workers, not friends, said Jerry, leaning back into her. Actually, even co-workers might be a stretch. We do work for the same company in the same building, so maybe co-workers, yes, but friends, no. Who's this, Jerry? Said Jessica, ignoring Jerry's jab at she and Arthur. She was thinking Jerry must have hired an escort. Nobody as classy as this one could be interested in the male guy, Jerry. Jessica also was thinking she might have a little fun at this boring party after all. I'm Andrea Coltrane, Jerry's new girlfriend. And who are you two? You could see from the expression on their faces what Jessica and Arthur were thinking. Girlfriend? Jessica recovered first. I'm Jessica Woodruff, and this is Arthur Connors. We're in marketing and work with Jerry at Bernie's Cookie Corporation. Oh, how exciting that must be, gushed Andrea. She had moved to stand next to Jerry and now playfully elbowed him in the ribs and gave him an exaggerated wink. Arthur was still in shock. This woman is with male guy? His tongue was tied. He couldn't think of a thing to say. Or, if he thought of something, would he be able to actually get it out? And where do you work, Andrea? Asked Jessica. For an agency? You mean like an advertising agency? Andrea responded. No, I'm not a model, though I could be, I suppose. I'm an anthropologist. Once again, Jessica and Arthur were left gawking. And let me tell you, I could have done my dissertation on holiday office parties. Before I found Jerry and you two, I met some very interesting people. I can't wait to see what alcohol's effect will have on them 2 hours from now. And I'd love to be around your office Monday morning when everybody's avoiding everybody else's eyes. That would be entertaining. Jessica was wondering how she'd lost control of this conversation. 5 minutes ago, she was looking forward to have some fun with Jerry and Andrea, maybe even destroying them. But now they had the satisfied smiles of people who were having all the fun. She had more than half a glass of wine left, and she finished it off. Don't anthropologists study dinosaurs and stuff? Asked Arthur, finally regaining the power of speech. He'd also drank the rest of his wine. No, you dope, snapped Jessica. You're thinking of archaeologists. That's not right either, Jessica, said Jerry. Anthropologists study people. Archaeologists study old things, and it's paleontologists who study dinosaurs. Very good, said Andrea, beaming at Jerry. Jessie could see that Jerry and Andrea were a team, and their team was soundly trouncing the team of Jessica and Arthur. She decided to get Andrea alone and maybe get back to her edge. So guys, Andrea and I are going to powder our noses. You can talk sports or whatever until we get back. Jerry looked at Andrea for a response. She kissed the tip of one of her index fingers and placed it on his lips. I'll be back soonest, dear, she said in a sultry, theatrical voice. Entering the restroom, the two women went into stalls. Andrea was first out and was already at the hand dryer when Jessica finished. While Jessica washed her hands, Andrea checked her makeup. Jessica noticed with some irritation that Andrea didn't even feel any touch-ups were necessary, because no touch-ups were. So, where are you from, Andrea? Surely not from here in Minneapolis. No, I'm from New York City, said Andrea, looking at Jessica in the mirror. And you? Born and raised right here in the Twin Cities. But you actually grew up in New York City? Oh, no. I'm from a little town in Wisconsin. And don't ask if we had cows, Andrea said with a chuckle. We hate that question. I left Wisconsin to go to the school out east and liked New York so much, I never moved back. What brings you here? With Jerry, I mean. Oh, I came out here for work and met Jerry at a bar and decided to stay for a while. He's a fun guy, don't you know? Jessica wasn't sure, but she thought Andrea was teasing her with the quaint Minnesota slang contraction. If she was, it was subtle. As an anthropologist, you must work for a university, right? I'm a professor at NYU. A little teaching, but mostly research. but anthropology is just my day job. So I may have been right about you working for an agency in the evenings. I work for the biggest, baddest agency in the world, but Jerry doesn't know that. I haven't told him yet, so don't you either. Jessica smiled a Cheshire cat grin. On Monday morning, I just might tell him his girlfriend's a prostitute. Andrea snorted, a very unladylike snort. She checked the stalls in the restroom to make sure they were alone. Actually, I'm a contract killer. Being a professor in anthropology is my cover. I came to Minneapolis to make a hit. Jessica's mouth hung open as she stared. No way, she finally said. Jessica opened her purse and took out a small Sig Sauer. She pointed it at Jessica's reflection in the mirror. Jessica gulped. You, kill people for money? That's what my agency people tell me to do, said Andrea. And sometimes I kill people who just happen to rub me the wrong way. For free. Know what I mean? Jessica gave the Andrea in the mirror a sick smile and turned to leave the room. I think you should go home now. Your lack of composure would only cause Jerry and Arthur to ask questions you don't want to answer, right? Jessica went home and got into bed without undressing and pulled the bedspread over her head. She didn't go to work on Monday, or Tuesday either. Jerry gave his 2 weeks' notice and went back to New York City with Andrea. They lived their very different lives together, and they always attended their office parties. That's it.
Thank you so much, Roy. That was a really good story. Thank you for reading that. Okay, I think I got to everybody on the open. Is there anyone that I missed? Then, well, this turned out to be kind of a party, didn't it? So thank you all for reading, and thank you to the features, and thank you for being so, willing to go with the flow. I appreciate that. Because all of a sudden, I spring the open on you, and it's like, oh, that's a lot of pressure, for you to like, what am I going to read? And, but we're troopers, right? So again, thank you all for being here. And we'll be back next month in the new year. It's hard to believe 2025 is done. And I'm Francine Witte for FBOMB, and thank you all, and drive safely. Good night.
Thank you, Francine.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone.